What's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Take It to the Hizzy Fantasy Football TITTH number 38. I'm your host, Justin Bruni. I got Nick Davis and Emron Khan with me. Say what's up, guys.
Hey, everybody. What's up?
What's up, everybody? Let's take it to the Hizzy.
Yep, we got a good group of topics on the board for today for TITTH number 38. Go ahead and do us a favor and smash the like button, share the video. We are in draft season, everybody. The lights are green. We are good to go. A lot of drafts going on this week and next week upcoming.
Yep.
Emron, you got your first draft in yesterday. How did it go? Give us a little feedback.
Actually got two in yesterday. The one I got in last night was my first ever auction style draft. Shout out to the 2K League. But so this one, we have a 14-team league, super flex, right? It's the first time doing an auction.
It's fun.
It was really fun to see all the different strategies, right? Especially when you got COVID, right? Do you go big all in on the big name players because they're going to produce for you? But if one of them gets COVID and they're out for 2 weeks, your team's fucked. Or do you play it safe and get a lot of depth, a lot of good pieces, but your team's lacking that guy that can go off any week, right, and win you. Mm-hmm. So what I ended up with, I got my first few picks. I actually got paired up with Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara.
Not bad.
Feeling really good about that. My quarterback tandem is Stafford and Rodgers. Got them for a fairly good deal.
Yeah,
I think consistency there. I snagged Mark Ingram later on as well, so I got a solid flex option. This league also has 2 flexes.
Okay.
My wide receivers were really thin, and this is one of those things that happens when you go all in on some stud players, right? Mm-hmm. So currently, my wide receiver one is Julian Edelman.
Could be better.
Yeah, it could be a lot better. I have Jerry Jeudy, who I'm high on. I think he can do something later on for me.
Absolutely.
I did snag my guy Anthony Miller later on, who I think can produce for me. But needless to say, may need to do some trading here. And then on Friday, I had a traditional, snake draft. Shout out to the Justice League, decade strong. This was a draft I had been hinting to you guys. I had the 5th pick for a while, and I was flirting with the idea of taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Mm-hmm. I did not. I took Michael Thomas. Crazy thing is, Helaire almost fell back to me in the second round, and I lost my shit. It was 2 picks away. Had I got him and Thomas, I would have been happy.
It happens.
Yeah, so this is not too unique of a league. We do have 2 flexes, standard 12-team PPR. The interesting thing here that I told the guys about is this is where I really enforce my strategy, which is you draft the best player on the board. You cannot reach for running backs because everybody else is doing it or whatever position. So I took Michael Thomas. I came back in the second round. I really didn't like any of the running backs. I just thought it would be too rich for round 2. Mm-hmm. I took Tyreek Hill. Best player on the board.
Yeah,
Michael
awesome.
Thomas and Tyreek Hill, thank you very much. That's 2 receivers who could both be top 5. They both could be top 3.
Absolutely. I have them at 1 and 2 in my rankings. So,
then again, stick with the best player on the board. I wanted to pair Hill with Mahomes. I was going to take him. Unfortunately, Mahomes and Jackson went 2 picks before me, so I couldn't take him. But my guy was just sitting there for me, Allen Robinson. This guy, he's the main target.
That is your guy.
He's going to get another, potentially 100 catches, 1,200 yards. He's in my flex.
It's a good start.
Yeah, and I was able to snag later on Gordon and Johnson, and I'll stop right there. We don't need to get in much further, but
that's a great start. I love the wide receiver tandem and being able to get David Johnson and Gordon. It's PPR, right?
It's PPR. I like it. I snagged also, James White later on too. Mm-hmm. So I feel good about it. I got some depth. I got some boom. So. Yeah,
I like David Johnson and Gordon at value for you in the 4th and 5th round.
Yep.
Yeah, in 4th and 5th round, guys that can both catch the ball out of the backfield. Gordon's a guy that I think he still caught over 60 balls last year, 56 passes, something like that, in a backfield where he was splitting work with Eckler. So, a lot of upside for Johnson and Gordon in their new respective homes this year. And, wide receivers, you're not going to have any problem, rolling those guys out every week. They're going to be studs for you. I really like it. You got any final feedback there for Emron there, Nick?
It was a bummer to me when I saw when you got this best ball approach and it ended up with 3 wide receivers. I was like, man, that's a bummer because it's basically a zero running back strategy to me. But you ended up with some great receivers. So we'll just see how the chips fall. That's basically how it is in these kind of leagues. You really just have no clue.
Yeah, I mean, true, like zero RB format or whatever status, you have to not take a running back for like your first 7 or 8 picks. I mean, it's your start, like you mentioned, best player available. I totally get it. If I'm coming back around in the second round and there's no top running backs there, let's say, the Fournettes, Jacobs, Chubbs, Aaron Jones, even Eckler, they all fall off the shelf. And I'm sitting there between, James Conner, Todd Gurley, or one of those receivers you mentioned.
That's literally where I was at. It was Gurley, Conner, or Carson in the 3rd round, or Robinson. Yeah. And I was like, that's way too rich for me.
Then I absolutely agree going wide receiver right there. And that just comes down to, guys, reading the board. Just reading the opportunities that you have in front of you. Yeah, I would prefer to be able to pull in 2 top-end, high-end running backs in my first 2 picks. But it's just not always possible. I may have been more inclined to go Lamar or Mahomes in the second. But again, you're pulling them in because they went another round, a few picks ahead of you. Same thing with Hilaire. If you had pulled him into the first, you would have been, overreaching when realistically they were just within your grasp
in the second round. That's the part that got me. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's tough, but I really like your start. So well done there. I know we got a couple of more drafts. We have our draft next Friday or Saturday. We'll see how the league fills out if we have to move it a day. But right now we're looking at next Friday. I got a real busy Labor Day in front of me. I got about 5 hours of drafting. How's your schedule looking, Nick?
I'm only in our drafts right now, but I'm gonna be closer to Labor Day. Be looking at those last minute drafts that need somebody to fill in. So I'm definitely gonna be looking for some ones that I have an IDP because I kind of like watching defensive players. So I am excited for the draft season coming up.
All right, sounds good. Good. Well, let's jump into some recent news. Right off the top of the morning here today, we had Yannick Ngakoue traded to the Minnesota Vikings. Love it on paper, but as a Bears fan, it's very troubling to me.
Yeah.
Coming in and filling that Everson Griffin role, younger, more valuable piece. I mean, obviously you had to trade some stock for him and some draft picks, but instant reaction, guys, what do you think?
For me, right after the trade for Ngakoue happened, the Jaguars came out and said, they're definitely rebuilding. Guys, we knew that the rebuild was happening when Jalen Ramsey was sent away. So, this is kind of like late breaking news, but, finally, at least they're admitting that they're doing a rebuild. It's going to be a tough year, win-wise in Jacksonville, but they got some exciting young players. I just think that, I'm glad that Yannick is out of the place that he doesn't want to be at and somewhere where he is going to be used and, possibly play for a championship. So, didn't Yannick also go to Maryland too?
Yep. Local guy?
Yep. So good for the Terp for sure.
Yeah. So this pick, like Justin mentioned, I what's the best way to put this? I hate it because I love it. It's a great fit for the Vikings, but I hate it as a Bears fan because that defense, one of the things we talked about was that they were lacking that second pass rusher next to Danielle Hunter. Now they have that, and I think he's better than Danielle Hunter. He's a game-changing player.
Absolutely.
And one of the things we were talking about before the show was, I think Jacksonville really messed up here. Like, it was no secret that he's been wanting to get out of there for quite some time. And I think they missed a golden opportunity at the NFL draft in April to flip him. And they could have gotten a first in last year's draft and picked a player up that could have helped him out this year. Mm-hmm. Now they're waiting because the iron was hot. Teams need a pass rusher. The guy was only 25. Is only 25. He's a young player. He's been producing. So they missed it out there. And this just goes to show you how fast the NFL will hit you. This team was minutes away from being in the Super Bowl in 2017. Mm-hmm. Minutes away. And all those players that were gone on that stalwart defense, which was one of the best in the decade.
Yeah, it was really good.
Damn good defense they had. They're all gone. It's just mind blowing. They only have, I think, maybe Miles Jack left, and it's just that's the NFL for you, man. Your windows are really small if you don't have an elite quarterback. If your team gets hot, you need to strike while it's hot, or you're like the Jags, where just 3 short years later, they're probably going to be bottom 3 team.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be them, the Jets, and the Washington football team at bottom 3 for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to hammer the overs against those teams, especially a team like the Jags that have offensive weapons. Every week they're going to be, battling from behind, constantly playing in garbage time.
That defense is just going to get shredded, man. They have nothing. No Bouye, no Ramsey, no Ngakoue, no Campbell.
Telvin Smith retired.
Jeez,
retired just out of nowhere.
That's how bad he wanted to get out of there.
The best advice to any rookie in the NFL is, you got to dump that interview in Jacksonville if they're calling your number. Go down there, talk about Fortnite, your Tinder account, everything that you love and hate to do inside of Uber rides. Like you got to just blow their hair back with all the reasons not to draft you.
Walk in wearing a Leonard Fournette jersey,
tuxedo T-shirt, whatever it is, just like a regular tuxedo. That Step Brothers the shit out of it. Maybe they think it's really weird. Who knows? But either way, Jacksonville. I mean, you call it a rebuild, but where are the pieces on defense for this rebuild?
It's gonna be really
or the team.
I like Minshew. I like Fournette. I like Shark.
The offense is okay.
The offense has names there. I mean, obviously the offensive line isn't great.
Yeah.
But they have names there on offense. They have some face value there.
But Fournette doesn't want to be there. And, I like Minshew too, but they don't have, that cornerstone.
Minshew want to be there?
He might not eventually, but I'm saying, they don't have that young cornerstone guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is our guy we're building around,
Maybe Shark after last year. I mean, he had a really impressive season. Shark, Chenal could be a thing. We're going to get into some of the guys that we've been referencing here. Chenal, A-Rob, we're going to get into some of them a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, overall, just not a ton of hype around the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, if any, right? I mean, we're loving the Gardner Minshew stuff, cases of Bud Light for taking them in the first round with your first pick, all this other stuff. Ngakoue leaving, I mean, yeah, it's news, but it's nothing positive for the Jags. You just grabbed, a couple more draft picks a couple of weeks before the season starts. There's no value for this team starting out the year. Pieces, like we just mentioned, I'm going to be all over some Shark share, some Minshew, some Fournettes. I like Fournette still at the end of the first round, or end of the second, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, there's some pieces there, but, man, they are hurting. They are hurting.
A lot of garbage time. In Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Really not that dissimilar to the Jets. We see them, just dumping players, grabbing picks.
I don't get where they're going, man. Some of the stuff that they do is just
I don't get where Jacksonville's going, you know. If you want to tank this season, I guess that's the year to do it. The COVID year. But yeah, just a lot of questions around that defense, around that team. So had to bring that to the forefront with him getting moved this morning. Moving into some ADP battles, some position battles. We're going to be focusing a lot on wide receivers today. If you're in need of some deep wide receiver info, this is definitely going to be the episode for you. So definitely go ahead and slam the like button, share the video. First up, we got some Minnesota wide receivers. Olabisi Johnson versus Justin Jefferson at receiver. We've seen a lot of good tape on Jefferson so far in camp, but Olabisi Johnson is taking the reps with the first team here, guys. Are you grabbing Justin Jefferson at his ADP in the mid 60s and the 70s? I have him at wide receiver 52, maybe a little bit higher than some. Or will you just sit on a guy like Olabisi Johnson, who, at the end of the day, could be the starter for you, for the first several weeks of the year, and that could produce to more action and volume for him if he does, answer the call for the Vikings early on. What do you guys think? Where are you going here?
I'm going to go Justin Jefferson. I mean, you don't spend the first-round pick on a receiver and not try and put him on the field.
Sure.
He did very well in the slot. I do not see why he can't continue that in the NFL. The last draft that's up here for us is, Jefferson went up in round 9. I'm okay with that. Round 9, that's kind of like where you're filling in your roster a little bit, maybe some flexes. But Olabisi Johnson, he's unranked by us, and he didn't really set the world on fire last year with his stats. So I'm still going to be sitting on Justin Jefferson for this one.
I agree with Nick. I mean, training camp hype, I don't really care about it. I don't care who's starter in depth charts right now. If we had preseason games and this training camp report would be backed up by some performances in games, even if it's against backups, and we saw something, then I would say, okay, this may be something to go at. But like Nick said, they traded a star receiver in Stephon Diggs for a first-round pick to get another receiver, which is Justin Jefferson. He's talented. He's way more talented than BC Johnson. He's going to take over. So BC Johnson may have a role as a third or fourth receiver on the team and may produce here and there, but I don't think he's going to be somebody you want to roster on your team. Justin Jefferson's still the guy to go with. He's going to be getting the shares from Stephon Diggs leaving. So I'm still all over Jefferson, and I think if you get him in the 8, 9, 10 round, it's really good value.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you guys. Justin Jefferson, if you're going to target one of them, yeah, he's definitely the guy to target. New bright shiny toy in town, has all the tangibles. We saw what he did at LSU. Amazing body of work. Over 110 catches. What is it? 70% of the total offense.
Yeah, it was something wild like
90% of the time he's coming out of the slot. And they could really use that there in Minnesota. I mean, Adam Thielen, to me, his route tree, he can do it all. I mean, he still can go downfield and break out outside the numbers. So I like him still as that number one guy. There is still a lot of positivity around him in camp, around Thielen. He's still the number one target there that I want out of Minnesota for his value. Dalvin Cook, obviously, you got to grab him in the first round if you're going to put him on your roster. But Thielen, someone that you can grab in the third or fourth round at value and still be your wide receiver one, after you may be stocked up on, two high-end running backs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But between Jefferson and Johnson, I mean, like body size, strength, what they can do to the offense, they're both really going to be possession receivers. Johnson, he flashed out of the pan a few times last year. But again, the volume with this offense, I'm not sure there's going to be enough for like two high-end receivers. So I see Justin Jefferson having a really good opportunity to break into that wide receiver 2 space, like in that area. But I think for most of the year, Johnson and Jefferson are going to be eating into each other's workload just based off of the way that, the Vikings offense runs, right? It's not pass heavy.
Yeah.
I do see some peaks and valleys for some of these rookie receivers that we're going to be referencing today. And I do see Johnson as kind of like a nag in Jefferson's side, season long. Where he went there, what did you say, it was 9th round?
Yeah, 9th round.
9th round, where's he at? Slayton, Judy.
Towards that side. There you go.
So he went at the end of that round. Phillip Lindsay went a pick right behind him. If I'm needing depth at running back right there, if I'm up in the air between, I can take a receiver or a running back, I would go with a guy like Lindsay or even a Chase Edmonds right behind him, someone that I do feel active or is going to be active, this year for the Arizona offense. So where he's going, I guess, I just may find other value. I mean, you see Drew Brees a couple of picks before that. I'm a big advocate of waiting on quarterbacks. So in that space in 16, 15 round drafts, I might hold off for some other value elsewhere. But between the two, yeah, I absolutely love Jefferson. Sorry.
So talking about another battle in Jacksonville, we are talking about Chris Conley and Laviska Shenault.
Mm-hmm.
Quick shout out to JW on Twitter, Dynasty Humble SR. He helped me get my 500th follower, which was Sports Talk 365. So appreciate both y'all.
Hashtag we follow back.
Yeah, but JW's actually been banging his drum for Laviska Shenault, which I absolutely love because I saw him in Colorado. He is more of an offensive weapon. Like, he's more of a gadget player. I see him getting more touches in open space. Chris Conley's a lot bigger than him, but Chris Conley did have his best year last year, but I just don't see him being like the number one target because you still have DJ Shark. You have
D.D.
Westbrook, and then Laviska Shenault. He was drafted a little higher, so I'm just more high on Laviska Shenault just because of his variety of ways to get me points.
Yeah, I think Chris Conley's a good player to have on your team. Like, he's a threat, and he can definitely produce for you in that third or fourth wide receiver role. Between this battle, I'm definitely going with Laviska Shenault. He drafted in the 42nd overall pick by the Jaguars. Made a heavy investment in him, and I just think he's a much more productive player. He played at Colorado, had a lot of good stuff going on his last 2 years there, which translated to him getting drafted pretty high. And Chris Conley, like I said, like Nick mentioned, he did have a career year last year, but I just think that was more so, just a depleted wide receiver core.
Yeah. Availability.
Yeah. And I think he just had more opportunities because nobody else was there, and he maximized on it. So, no knock to him, but if you look at the rest of his career when he was with the Chiefs, he's kind of just like a 30 to 40 reception guy, maybe 300 to 400 yards. So, he's a guy that can produce. I think if somebody gets injured on the Jaguars, if Chark or Westbrook or Shenault get injured, and he may be worth as a look. But if I'm drafting between these two, I'm taking the rook.
Conley, the one thing I don't like about him is that he has a 52% catch percentage of 52%.
Mm-hmm.
That's horrible. That's really bad for an NFL wide receiver. Laviska Shenault, he played in college last year. There isn't numbers on, College Reference, but I just don't see him dropping as many balls as that to get to 50%.
No.
So that's one thing. Chris Conley, he might get the volume of targets, but he's not going to convert as many as you want. He's 6'3". He might be a great red zone target, but with that, percentage, it's kind of like, basically a coin flip.
No, and I think those that catch percentage rate just speaks to somebody that's a third or fourth target on a team or lower. He's just a guy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll play devil's advocate with this one. I like Chris Conley. He got 90 targets last year, and I think a lot of it, like you mentioned, like there was some availability for him, right? He was able to come in, get a little bit more action, but I think a lot of it was, poor offensive line play, inconsistent play from the quarterback position. Minshew going to take a step forward this year. I think he can complete a few more passes to him, increase that percentage, which, when he was with Kansas City, it was much higher, right? Last year, it was 52. For his career, he's like around 58%, playing with, better talent at quarterback with like Mahomes the year previous.
A little different.
Yeah, obviously. But he was fourth on the team in targets and then third in receivers. So, has that trust with the offense. Shenault coming in, like the piece, but they're dueling for the spot right now. So, if it's a tie, I'm going to go Conley to start the season. Was Shenault drafted in this last one?
Shenault?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so Westbrook was drafted in the 14th round. Let's see. Yeah, in the 14th round, Shark would have went much higher. It doesn't really matter, 7, 8, 6, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Conley is a guy that you can get for free. Same thing with an Olabisi Johnson. Those are free guys. In deeper leagues, they're going to go off the boards, and you need to know about their availability. Past rounds like 17, 18, stuff like that, right? So he's an interesting piece. I don't think his volume last year is anything necessarily to kick away. Second on the team in receiving yards as well. I mean, there's some opportunity here. So yeah, if it's a tie going into week 1, I'll take Chris Conley for free. I have Laviska Shenault at wide receiver 74, Conley at 90. So there's some value for me there. And Shenault might be a landmine in drafts. I'm not necessarily sure if he comes out there for you and you draft him in 16 round leagues. He may not pop off the charts for you, and he could potentially be a drop candidate in weeks 2 or 3 if he's not producing. So if it's a tie going into week 1, I'm going to go Conley. If there's a little bit more Shenault, hype love, I might go his way, but I'm going to try to get Shenault at value. I have him ranked a little bit higher just because we see all of the tangibles there, right? Everything that he could provide to this offense, but still a rookie, still coming in, have some questions on him. And Conley seems to have, the nod or the confidence of the coaches right now. So that tied in with last year's production, which was a breakout year. Obviously, his only good year because of the volume that he was able to obtain. 5 receiving touchdowns the past couple of years. 5 with the Chiefs, low volume, didn't have a ton of targets. Last year, was able to be a reliable piece in the offense, but I think you guys are right, or at least Imran, I don't know if you mentioned the injury, but you need an injury here for either one of them to just shoot up. Yeah. And Dede Westbrook is that guy. The man has trouble staying healthy, only started 11 games for the Jags last season, was available for 15, and he's had issues in the past staying healthy before. So that's where I see Shenault's biggest value is being the future potentially of this team if Westbrook can't stay healthy. I think Westbrook is in a contract year as well. Yeah, so he's in a contract year as well. May not be there after this season. So I think Shenault is really just the presence going forward. Definitely somebody I think we'll be targeting heavily to start next year.
I agree.
Next up, we got Deebo Samuel versus Brandon Aiyuk. Obviously, Deebo Samuel injured right now, but he's back with the team, running on the sidelines, doing sprinting on the sidelines. Seems like he's going to be back early in the season. Are you guys still really high on Aiyuk, or are you maybe creeping back to Deebo here?
I am for value right away. I'm still high on Brandon Aiyuk. They should not rush back Deebo Samuel. He's very electric.
I agree.
And they should let the younger guys get their feet wet in the NFL. The one thing that I really like about Brandon Aiyuk was he is only 5'11" and 3/4, so he's about my height, all right? And I kind of have short arms. This guy has a 81-inch wingspan, which is the equivalent to a 6'9" person. That is incredible.
It's insane.
What a catch radius. That's insane. I just can't believe it. He even popped off the film when I was watching the NFL draft with my girlfriend. Even she was like, man, his arms are really long. I was like, yeah, that's why he got drafted. So I think that, he's actually had a lot of positive talk in training camp. So I'm really high on Brandon Aiyuk for the beginning of the season. But when Deebo Samuel comes back, his value is going to drop a little bit. But, hopefully I get him at value. I'm not going to reach on him. But if he falls to me, I'm definitely going to take a flyer on him. He's one of my rookie receivers I'll be looking at.
Honestly, this is one where I think both can eat. if you look at the Niners wide receiving depth chart, it's a little bit bare. Especially with especially with Deebo being hurt right now, they don't really have anybody else that jumps off the screen. They did draft Jalen Hurts a couple years ago, who thought could be a really great playmaker, but he's been hurt again this year, so he's not playing. Mm-hmm. You have Kendrick Bourne. I think he's just a guy. Dante Pettis, our guy Kevin White. Shout out Kevin White. But they just have guys there. So I think when healthy, I think both of them are going to be valuable for you. And like Nick mentioned, his catch radius and being a first round pick, I think Aiyuk's going to get a lot of looks. Between the two, if I have to pick which one I like the most, I'm just going with Deebo Samuel. Understanding he's going to miss the first 3 or 4 games, I agree he should not get rushed back. The guy is just a playmaker. He just gets the ball. He just needs the ball in his hand. It doesn't matter what he has to do. Last year, 14 yards a catch. He had 3 touchdowns. Next part is he also got 14 carries last year. He averaged 11 yards per carry and had an additional three touchdowns.
6 total.
Yeah, 6 total. But the big playability is huge here. Only 14 carries, right? 4 of those 14 carries went for 20 or more yards.
Ooh,
that's big play potential. And 18 of his 57 catches, they went for 20 or more yards. He's just a big play guy.
Electric.
He's an electric guy. So they need that on this offense, along with George Kittle and the other guys. So between the two, I think Samuel just does more. So I think he's better. But I think Aiyuk is definitely somebody who's going to have value because I just think the Niners are really lacking at wide receiver. And there's only so much George Kittle can do. So I think they both have value. But between the two, I would go with Samuel, even though I understand that up to maybe the first month, he may not play.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's a stay-away situation. Drafting Brandon Aiyuk, I want to say he's going, where did we see it here, the 15th round?
Yeah, later.
I don't hate it. I mean, you're looking at the last pick of the draft, right?
Yeah,
that's a 15-rounder, 16-rounder. Yeah, if I can get Aiyuk you're not going to get Samuel at your last pick, so I guess I'm just not going to be drafting Samuel, right? If I can get Aiyuk for free my last pick, sure. But we're looking at this mock here. Receivers that win in the last round of a 15-round mock, you're looking at Bryan Edwards, love him. Steven Sims, you're all about him. Alshon Jeffrey, you took him in the last pick of your draft, you told me.
Yep.
Brandon Aiyuk right there. These are all free receivers. So there's no risk of grabbing him at the end of the 15th, but you won't see me leaping to grab either one of these guys. I'm definitely building on running backs at the beginning of my draft, so maybe Deebo is there for me at the back of the mid-rounds. I don't want to say I'm drafting him in the 5th through the 8th rounds.
No.
I don't think you can do that right now.
Where would you feel comfortable taking Deebo? 12 team.
12 team? I don't know if I'd be comfortable taking him, period.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I just like other pieces. Like, let's see where he went in this one. Where he's getting drafted right now, there's CeeDee Lamb. Deebo right there. Round 7.
Jeez.
Dude, Deontay Johnson is a dark horse, and I'm not even that high on him. Yeah. Marvin Jones, Ruggs, Brandon Cooks, Tariq Cohen, who he's going to have a role in weeks 1 through 3 for sure with Montgomery.
Much expanded role, yeah.
So where he's getting drafted.
That's rich for me. That's too rich for me.
Okay, Shepard, number 1, in New York, and he's been killing it in camp.
And he's a round later.
Yeah.
So let's go to the 10th round. Let's go to the 11th round. I'm looking at names like
Deshaun
Jackson, Tony Pollard,
Noah Fant,
Rashad Perriman. Maybe this round, but I'm looking at Preston Williams I like more.
Yeah.
Sammy Watkins, still there. Offense. Sammy Watkins has not died, everyone. I just want you to take out a Post-it note and write, Sammy Watkins is not dead. This guy's got tremendous value at the end of your drafts, and he's still playing with one of the best quarterbacks on the planet at the time. So stop hating his value. I don't understand it. Everyone's so high on Mecole Hardman. But yeah, back to Deebo here. Sorry, where he's going too rich. Where he could go, where I could get him at value. 12th round, I'll take Curtis Samuel. I'll take Allen Lazard. These are guys that I can get value for weeks 1 through 4 still.
Yeah.
Maybe even pop off in a trade. If they get
Michael
really big.
Pittman in that round too.
Yeah. I'm not in love with Michael Pittman, but I don't hate it. That's a coin flip for me. Like a Michael Pittman versus Deebo. I think Deebo, all the talent's there, all the opportunities there, all the production. But when are you getting him? When is he getting into your lineup?
You might be missing a third of your fantasy season.
A third of your fantasy season, and then even the first week that he's available back. Are you plugging him in, or are you waiting? That'll depend on your scenario. Are you chasing points? Are you chasing a win? Exactly. Not a situation I want to be in. I want a little bit more upside coming into this year, especially for Deebo is getting drafted. So for me, I'm going to stay away. I'm going to stay away. If I get Aiyuk in the last round, cool. But I really like some of the other names that are there. Sims, like I mentioned, you're on. Bryan Edwards, I like. Alshon, you like. So yeah, there's just a lot of options there The running backs in that round, I wouldn't touch probably.
You don't get into the playoffs by stashing people for 4 weeks to 8 weeks and hoping to have a run at the end. You win those. You get that playoff spot in those first 4 weeks. You got to really get ahead of your competition. And when you're using a high pick like a round 7 for someone that might not even get you something in the first 2 rounds or first 2 weeks, that's just way too high. And for me, I stay away from injuries going into the season because I want to get absolute value for people that I am picking in the draft. Even at the end of the draft in those last couple rounds, I still want to see to get value of them up first weeks. So don't wait to get those wins. Get those wins right now.
Yeah, the only guy at the back end of your draft, and I think you guys will agree with me on this, that I'm willing to take a flyer on like that, like I know I have zero value in this guy the first half of the season, is Antonio Brown.
Yep.
Because anytime that guy gets picked up, literally in weeks 1 through 5, 1 through 7 even, if he gets signed like literally right before his suspension ends, he's going to be a game changer for that offense wherever he goes. Seattle 49ers we've been talking about. Baltimore, hometown option, right? So, I mean, or not for Antonio Brown. We're in
Maryland.
We're in Maryland. So, yeah, I mean, he's a guy that I would take in the 11th or 12th round in something like that. Like, if you're asking me, between Deebo and Antonio Brown, I'd go AB. That's someone that I would be, willing to take a risk on at that point. But yeah, either way, you can get value for both of them. Deebo could come in at the end of the year and do something for you in the playoffs, but you're going to have an uphill battle in your draft trying to fill in the pieces between now and the time he gets back. All right, next up we got Jalen Reagor versus the field in Philadelphia. Who's the top dog for you in the wide receiver room for the Eagles, guys? Who's the first one you're going to draft?
I'm going to say Jalen Reagor. He was drafted in the first round, and he's kind of like a consolation pick because Philadelphia was talking about getting CeeDee Lamb, and Jerry Jones on his yacht was like, "Nah, fam, that's not happening." So they ended up with Jalen Reagor, but he's been getting a lot of hype in Philadelphia for training camp.
Yep.
The only other person that I've really been hearing a lot of stuff on is JJ. Arcega-Whiteside. They got like Sleep JJ or whatever now on Twitter talking about how he's just like opening up the field and have a lot of deep passes and receptions for touchdowns. So Jalen Reagor, he has the pedigree and the organization believes in him. So right now he's gonna be my number one to draft in that room. And he also is my side bet with Justin on most touchdowns for rookie receivers.
Reagor, not Whiteside.
Oh yeah, Reagor. So that bet was made like a day after the draft was.
Yeah, I have Ruggs across the board for everything. Give me all of Henry Ruggs.
Nah, fam.
So when I'm looking at the Eagles depth chart right now, and Alshon,
it's a little crowded.
It's a little crowded, but at the same time, I don't see a lot of. I see quantity. I don't see a lot of quality. So Alshon's hurt. When the guy's healthy, he's a productive player, but he's never healthy. Deshaun Jackson, he can be a game breaker any week, but he has injury concerns as well, which is what happened last year, right? They were, I think you and Nick played a couple games for the Eagles last year, right? To fill in for the wide receivers.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So. They're pretty low on wide receiver, so I would say Reagor is my guy that I would draft just because they invested a first round pick on him and he's needed. But I think the Arcega-Whiteside, hearing the good stuff about him is okay. I think depth's needed for this team, but I think it doesn't really concern me. I think Reagor is going to get a lot of love there, a lot of big plays. He's the guy that at the NFL Combine. His 40-yard dash time was a 4.447. When he ran his virtual pro day, his 40-yard dash time came in at a reported 4.27 and 4.28.
I think the coach clicked the button a little early.
Yeah, but the tape did show that he's a burner. He's got the jets.
He's fast. He's got speed.
He's got the jets. He's got the jets. So I would say I would go with Reagor, but I think for this offense and the way they're designed, it's also worth noting that the tight ends eat here a lot too.
That's perfect segue because Zach Ertz is the first guy that I'm taking off the board for the Eagles. I may have referenced wide receivers, but he's a wide receiver on this offense, right? Yep. He's going to be the number one target until he gets hurt, and then Dallas Goedert, who's still there, gets a consistent role. He'll step into the Ertz role if he gets hurt, right? But it's a really crowded backfield here for the receivers. Reagor, I like over everybody else. I think Greg Ward is probably the next guy that I'm high on. Arcega-Whiteside had plenty of opportunity last year. He didn't do anything with it. Didn't show a ton of chemistry with Wentz. Reagor coming in, already filling in, that role, all the hype there. People are saying he's going to be the number one, like right out of the gate. He's going to be the number one target on this team. If Jeffrey isn't back week 1, we have to assume that, which it sounds like he's not going to be. There's not really enough news out there to decipher if Jeffrey is even worth spending any draft pick on. We saw him go in the last round of this mock. Great value. I mean, potential wide receiver 1 down the stretch of the year, but he's going to be in and out of a lineup. Even if he does come back this year, he's going to come back, he's going to get hurt, and then he'll come back and get hurt again. That's just Alshon Jeffrey. That's what he does. I'm not sure he's built for the NFL anymore, to be perfectly honest with you. But building on the speed with this team, you have Jackson there, you have Reagor coming in who's really fast. I like Ward, I like Whiteside in theory, but didn't do enough there last year when he had all the opportunity. Greg Ward shot up the charts there. They still have Miles Sanders, who's going to catch more balls out of the backfield. Down the past 8 games of last year, he caught like over 50 balls or something like that, something ridiculous, like double or triple his first half production of the year. So I like Sanders a lot. If gun to my head, Reagor went in the 10th round of this last mock here.
I think that's what it was.
I think that's respectable value. It seems like they're going to be using him a lot. They've said as much. He has a week 1 role, right? He's going to have high snap counts. I don't think that's that risky. Golden Tate, Anthony Miller, Mecole Hardman, Robbie Anderson in that round. I think I like it. I think I like him in that. I think I like him in that spot. What do you think, Nick? I mean, would you draft him that high? Would you draft him sooner? You seem to be on him the most.
I mean, he's taken a round before Preston Williams, and I'm high on Preston Williams. So, if that's where it calls for him to go, and he's right behind Justin Jefferson. So, round 10,
bad spot.
It's not a bad spot. And, to be honest, my rookie wide receiver flyer that I took last year was both McLaurin and Marquise Brown. They were both taken around round 10. I'm perfectly okay taking my flyer on Reagor this year in round 10 because I already have most of my lineup already set up at that point. So it's really just trying to find that person that gets that lottery ticket return.
Yeah, he could be a good bench piece for you to start the year. I'm not sure I want him in my lineup to start week 1. I would have needed to gone really high with
running backs or something.
Well, no, like Lamar and then a tight end and then running backs.
Yeah,
and then plugging in my wide receivers or my starting wide receivers. So yeah, I like Reagor this year. I'm not incredibly high on him. He's my wide receiver 53, but versus the field there, other than Ertz, yeah, he's my preferred option. All right, so breaking into some of the articles that we've written, this most recent one, we've got DK Metcalf versus Tyler Lockett ADP battle. This one got a ton of feedback online. Really liked all the feedback. I could go both ways here. I see both sides. My first inclination, take Lockett because he's the safer option. He has the safer floor. But man, the sky is the limit for DK Metcalf. It's just that they both literally within 5 spots of each other, they were drafted in the 4th round. And I feel that's a little bit aggressive for Metcalf. Are you guys drafting DK Metcalf as your wide receiver 2, your second receiver as a starter on your fantasy team?
Ooh, where did he go in this one? He went.
I bet
he went round 5. And then
right there, I see middle of round 5.
Yeah. So where did Tyler Lockett go? Yeah,
4 spots ahead, or 3 spots ahead in the 5th round. 4th, 5th round.
Okay, so I think
really close.
I think DK should go before Lockett because Lockett to me is the ultimate possession receiver. Like he has great hands. He's always in the right position. But DK has the potential to be the best receiver that Russ Wilson has had in his time in Seattle. The best one that we came up with before camera was Doug Baldwin. He was a 6th round pick out of Stanford. He worked his butt off to get to that point. DK Metcalf, he's just got some God-given abilities to look almost like a statue, and he's just really big, really physical. I was really surprised on his year last year, but I just think that Russ Wilson is one of those guys that if he's got a good quarterback, or a good wide receiver, he's gonna feed him a lot. Lockett's gonna be more to get the coverage off of Metcalf. I think when the defensive coordinators look at this offense, they're going to be like, we need to look at Russ Wilson and we need to look at DK Metcalf. We'll let Tyler Lockett kill us, doing those curl routes and in routes and stuff.
That's great for fantasy, though.
That is great for fantasy, but I think DK has more big play potential.
You're not wrong. The big playability is there. It was 15 yards per reception last year. That's great. It's great as a rookie, right? It's just as high as, say, like a Calvin Johnson who put up 14 his rookie season. So I see everything there. Like, the 1% body fat, all the build, the size, the power, the speed. I get it. The sky is the limit. I cannot back down from that, right? Metcalf has the opportunity to really take off this year, but when we're talking fantasy, when we're talking ADP, 4th or 5th round, Emron, guns to your head. Are you doing it?
For Metcalf?
Yeah.
Yes, Metcalf I would take in the 5th round.
You're on it. So
for Metcalf, what I liked is, and I wrote about him in our props article a few weeks ago, is that one of the biggest. So the biggest pro for Metcalf coming into the NFL was he's built like a Greek god, right? 6'4", chiseled,
Hercules,
and he can he can run. He's all bit of 4.3 speed, right? 4.38 speed.
Yeah.
And his concern was he only knows the go route, right? And he can't run routes, and that was his concern. But he was very productive in his rookie year. And rookie year is when usually receivers, they may struggle a bit, but 58 catches, 900 yards, and 7 touchdowns, a damn good rookie year.
That's great.
Good.
And so he's got a year of NFL defenses, and that division has a lot of tough defenses, right? Rams, Niners. So he knows how to play against those type of corners. And I think he's just going to progress on that. And I definitely see him being a guy that's getting maybe 70 to 80 catches this year, and I think he's easily going to be in that 11 to 1,200 yard catch range because I think he's just going to get better. Russ is going to have the familiarity, and he can do things that Lockett can't do.
Yeah.
Lockett's not 6'4". He can't go up and get that ball. He doesn't have that speed. So it's not to say I don't like Lockett, because Lockett, the last 4 years, his catches have gone up every single year. And I love players like that because it shows they're getting better and the numbers back it up. And Lockett's definitely the safer option. He'll probably get you, he's a great possession receiver. His career receptions around 12 yards a catch or so. Between the two, I like the guy that can give me that boom. It's definitely Metcalf for me. I'm not surprised those two are being picked so close apart. I mean, you have them ranked 4 places apart.
I do.
It's right on the money.
It's neck and neck, and that's why I love this comparison between these two, because just the themes of these guys, right? Metcalf, super high potential ceiling. Lockett, super safe floor, right? What direction and what strategy do you want to take in the 5th round? You're still in starters, right? I personally would prefer to get Metcalf at value. I want to land Metcalf in one draft and not all my drafts, right? I don't want to have him everywhere.
Okay.
And if you look at where this person took him, where is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 6th pick of the draft, and this guy took Dalvin Cook first, Josh Jacobs, James Conner, Melvin Gordon. Running back heavy. The first 4 picks. And then DK Metcalf as his first wide receiver. And I'm going to say I hate that, right? Because I don't like that balance. I think that you need another guy there ahead of Metcalf. At best, the scenario that I would have Metcalf like the highest, he is my second receiver on the team, right?
Yeah.
In that scenario, you could have had, instead of
James Conner, Odell.
Let's say you got A.J. Brown the round before instead of Metcalf, right? I know that Brown went before his pick, but let's say you get Brown and then Metcalf. Then I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with him on my team. You're only looking at 58 catches last year, guys. With all these other emerging weapons, the Seahawks just signed Paul Richardson. They just added another receiver to this room here. And I'm not saying that Paul Richardson is going to come in and steal a ton of volume, but he's going to get his snaps. And we've been talking up the running backs in this running back room. We've talked up DJ Dallas. They added Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde still had like over 200 carries last year somehow. The legs are fresh enough to still be running, right? The team is a run-heavy operation. They were the 23rd most run-heavy team last year. So with all of these other pieces there are still some questions for me that loom Metcalf's value, right? There are some other aspects of the offense that make me believe that there's not going to be the same amount of volume for him this year. If he takes any sort of regression, he's under 100 targets. And for me to have him really take that leaps and bounds, Calvin Johnson type of production, the sky is the limit, wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 production, he's got to get 150 targets. He's got to get 140 targets.
I disagree.
That ain't gonna happen.
He only had guys. He only caught 58
out of 100.
58 out of 100 targets. That's great when you got Russell Wilson throwing to you, but the division, like you mentioned, it is still tough, and they're bringing in other weapons. The focus is the run game. So 4th or 5th round, I'm taking Lockett just a safer floor in that space. Give me all of Metcalf a couple of rounds later if I can grab him as my wide receiver 3. Or my flex wide receiver. Going to be difficult to do. but I bet I can manage it.
And so the thing you mentioned about the targets is his rookie year at 100 targets, but he's not target dependent and he's not catch dependent. He's averaging 16 yards a catch. He gets 60 to 70 catches. He's going to have 1,000 to 1,100 yards.
Yeah,
sure. So Lockett is the one that's dependent.
But in PPR, is that the value that you want in the 5th round? Do you want a touchdown dependent wide receiver in the 5th round, or do you want a guy that's going to get you consistent volume every week?
So if you're getting a guy that gives you what, let's say they both get you 1,100 yards. Lockett gets you 80 catches, 85 catches, 1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns. Metcalf gets you 63 catches, 1,100 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Who would you want?
I would want. I want Lockett because if I'm touchdown dependent every week, literally, if I need the touchdown to get my nut on a player, then I don't want him in the 5th round.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Though you wouldn't. My scenario, they have the same amount of yards. It's just he's a bigger play potential. So I mean, you'll get more of those. 6 catch for 60 yards.
In standard, sure. But what's a better game? 2 for 60 and a touchdown, or 5 for 70 and no touchdown? They're pretty even.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And then that's what I'm taking. I'll take the 5 and 75 every week if I can. Because I don't want to boom on that touchdown. I don't want to be dependent on that touchdown.
But I also don't see Lockett having a game where he gives you 10 catches at 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I don't see any game where either of them do that because that's the offense, right? That's the run-heavy aspect that comes into play here.
Well, even though last year, though, we called a run-heavy offense, they both still almost had 1,000 yards.
Right, exactly. But and the coaches are doubling down on there being more running. They added DJ Dallas, right? They added Carlos Hyde. They're adding more pieces to the running room than they are the receiving room. I mean, Paul Richardson's not really a piece, right? Greg Olsen, yeah, he'll be a thing. He'll dip. He's going to dip into that for sure. He's going to dip into that for sure. And Will Disley, he's not going away. I know he was a guy that you were really high on last year.
He was solid.
Yeah, he was extreme.
So there's weapons here still, and the focus of the Seattle Seahawks, they're not really a fantasy-friendly offense. It is run-heavy. You're still looking at guys last year that, were solid pieces for you, Metcalf and Lockett, but they weren't bringing home dinner. They weren't the guys that were necessarily winning you your championship. Maybe Metcalf in the last few weeks of the season because he was used a lot in the last few weeks there. But for me, I'm taking the safer floor in the mid-rounds. If I get Metcalf at 7, 8, 6 round, anywhere in there, I'm going to feel a lot better. I guess my big argument is I don't want to reach for either of them. And if someone takes Metcalf before Lockett, I'm all about it. Like do it, because I'm going to be scooping up Lockett a few picks back. And if you don't boom on Metcalf, if he doesn't take off like we all expect and want, believe me, as a football fan, I want to watch this dude clean up on Sundays.
Yeah.
But if I'm gambling and I'm putting my picks on the line for it, I got to go with the safer option.
I'm still on DK, man, because I'm looking at the game logs right now, and Tyler Lockett, before week 10, he had 3 games over 15 targets. After that, though,
he had how many games with 15 targets?
3 games over 15 targets.
Okay, well that's really good in general. Period. But go on.
That's good.
Go on.
But after week 10, he doesn't reach 10 targets in any game.
Mm-hmm.
But he does catch. He only drops 1 ball a game, so that's really impressive. But when you look at DK's game logs, after week 9, he has 2 games of 10 targets. So I see that, at first DK was getting his feet wet and they were feeding the ball to Lockett to try and, get Metcalf some confidence. Mm-hmm. But man, week 10 happened and they're like, we're giving the ball to DK. And I just see the shift of the focus go from Lockett being the number 1 guy to just, feeding him, getting him in space, to getting that big play potential with Metcalf. And you see in his receiving yards per game, he only had 2 games or 3 games where he had no receptions, but 2 games under 10 yards receiving. Everything else was above 15 and even some games 20 and 30 yards per reception. So I just see DK being that guy that's going to be getting the focus now. It's going to be off of Lockett, who is a number 2 receiver, the ultimate game manager at receiver. I just see Metcalf being that big play potential. He's not going to need those targets to get those yards because he gets those on the receptions.
Did Metcalf get hurt in that Arizona game?
I think he got shut out.
Something, 1 target and 0
probably
catches.
Put Patrick Peterson on him. Now.
Well, Patrick Peterson was back at the end of the year, but Patrick Peterson, he's backed up there. But a situation like that does concern me. But Lockett had those games too. There was 3 games where Lockett was completely put away. And you're still going to see that on a run-heavy team because I imagine they probably try to put the ball on the ground and maybe Russ had some turnovers or something. But regardless, there are going to be those games for every receiver in the league where they just get put away. Even Mike Thomas has happened to him a few times in recent years.
Adding on to Nick's note, because we always want to look at, momentum from the last year, right? Who ended last year strong? Because usually that'll mean they'll start the next year fast. And
tell that to Damian Williams.
If you look at the from week 9 to week 16, Metcalf had 5 games where he had at least 6 catches. So he's getting work.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I touched on it in my article.
Yeah.
He got better every week. And when you watched Metcalf, just playing football, week 1 through week 5 and then 6 through whatever, he looked better every week on the field. He was making improvements literally in front of our eyes every Sunday. And I love the player. I love everything about him and what he can do to the offense. Believe me, I want this dude to take off like Calvin Johnson. I think the cherry on top for me for the Lockett, 137.5 QBR rating. It's the highest connection in the league from a quarterback to any receiver with Russ Wilson and Tyler Lockett. The efficiency's there for me. You mentioned the lack of drops. I'm going to go with the consistent push there, and if I have to take one of these guys in the 5th round, if that's where they're falling off, Lockett's my guy. And I love the takes on both sides because on social media yesterday, literally my phone blew up every other second. Metcalf, Lockett, Metcalf, Lockett, Metcalf, Lockett, just back and forth. So I can really go both ways here. I just want Metcalf at a little bit more value. I don't want him 4 picks after Lockett, and that's where it just appears he's going to go. That's just this year, because you look in your draft queues, you're looking at all the names, and they're in nice, neat ESPN, Yahoo order, and people just don't stay away from that. Me, I have my ranks on the side, my own numbers, my own guys. I'm picking from my list, not their list. But at the end of the day, that's what people are doing. Even if they have their list, they're like, oh, well, someone's going to grab Metcalf because his name is at the top of the list, and you can't move him down that list. You can't just hide him from people.
Nope.
You know what I mean? So they're going to get pulled in the same spot, and if that's the case for fantasy, I can't do it. I need Metcalf at a little bit better value. 1 round even. If one goes in 5, I want the other at the end of the next round. I don't want them within 4 to 6 picks because I don't feel like I'm getting a ton of value there. I feel like I'm just immediately rushing to the next one because the other guy's gone.
I get you.
Any closing thoughts on that one? It's a divisive topic.
It's going to be a fun one to revisit at the end of the year.
It really is. It really is. I really like the takes between both sides, and I have very few disagreements with the things that people have to say about Metcalf. I just have just as much to say about Lockett on the flip side. So I'm good going either way, really. Just I need Lockett a little bit better value. All right, so closing it down here, we got one of our Chicago guys, Allen Robinson, going to be quarterback proof in 2020. A lot of talk right now about who's going to be the quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Looks like they're holding their cards pretty close to their chest going into week 1, saying that we may not know who the quarterback is, the starting quarterback, until literally moments before kickoff or potentially the pregame. We've talked before about our inclination, Foles versus Trubisky, but realistically, at the end of the day, Allen Robinson, my wide receiver 8, and going to be quarterback proof this year. Had a great year last year with Mitch Trubisky, who was very inaccurate, very inefficient. Definitely not someone you were writing home to in football, let alone fantasy, right? Not the guy for the Bears. They went out, grabbed Foles. Not sure who the guy's going to be, but Allen Robinson going to be the tried and true option there for the Bears. Mm-hmm. What did we have his over-under at, 1099 yards?
Yeah, his over-under, I can read them off for all 3. At mybookie.ag, you got the receiving receptions for Allen Robinson, 89.5. Yards is 1099.5. And touchdowns is 7.5.
So instantly, yards, I'm going to say over. Touchdowns, I'm going to say even or stay away. We talked about that before.
The hook.
It's 7 or 8, right? That's kind of the range I think we expect him to finish in. So I'm going to say stay away or stay flat. I don't want to bet on a prop where I think he's going to finish a half point below the number, right?
Yeah.
And then yards over, touchdowns even, and then catches. I think he might be under. I think he does more this year. I think they spread the ball around a little bit more. What do you think, Nick?
I think he's going to be over. I mean, he got 150 targets. The 3 years where he's actually done some damage, he got 150 targets. 1 year, it was with Blake Bortles, and he had like a 48% catch percentage, which was terrible, but that's not a knock on him. That's more a knock on not being able to get the ball to him. In the year with Mitch, he had 154 targets with 98 receptions. So if he gets all 16 games, I see no reason why he can't get 100 receptions.
What are you saying, man?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when the guy's healthy, he's just an absolute beast. His first year in Chicago, he missed 3 games. He finished with 750 yards. Had he played in those last 3 games, I'm pretty sure he gets 1,000 there too. Last year, when you looked at this team, they really had no other weapons on offense. They had no tight ends. They didn't really throw the balls in the backfield unless it was Tariq Cohen getting a 2-yard pass.
Oh, God.
It wasn't until like week 11 where Anthony Miller, they finally realized they have this stud young receiver where he blew up for 500 yards over 5 weeks, that they actually had some help for him. So every week, the defense is like they have literally one weapon on offense. They have one weapon. And he somehow still managed to get nearly 100 catches and nearly 1,200 yards last year.
Yeah.
I like the over in all of them. Touchdown, I'm a little bit skeptical on. He's only gone over 7 touchdowns once in his career. And that also is just, worried about the quarterback play. I think he gets to 7. I don't know if he can get to 8 or higher.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at.
That's my expectation too. Is just the number is just very, very suspicious. When you're looking at, was it 7 touchdowns last year, 4 last year? I feel like the touchdown volume could go up because I'm not the same page with you as far as like the catches. I think the catches will go down a little bit. They've added a few more weapons in the offense that can actually like have hands. Like I know Jimmy Graham isn't great, but he can catch the ball, guys. Like he doesn't have to sprint down the field, but he can catch the ball. He has hands, and that was something that the Bears were just missing last year. Guys that can just clean up easy passes across the middle, and some of those easy passes are coming in a little bit too hot, a little bit too soft, maybe not so accurate. Maybe you got to reach out 5 yards to the right more than you would anticipate, with a quarterback like Mitch Trubisky. So this year, I've mentioned before, my anticipation is Foles comes in, he's going to be the guy. Maybe it's even after weeks 1 through 4, whatever. But I think he cuts up the shares a little bit more evenly, right? Gets more weapons involved. Steadies out the running game for us and, just really, balances the offense, right? Because, the Bears did feed the rocks to Allen Robinson last year, but the offense and the team didn't have a ton of success. Going into week 9, going into the last week of the season, with only 7 wins, we finished off with, 8-8, could have easily been a losing season, right? So I like Robinson a lot, going to be quarterback proof. I think that, the volume is going to be there for him. I just think he takes a little bit of regression with the balanced offensive approach this year with the Bears.
And it's going to be interesting to see how they start out. Because the first 3 games are very favorable. I actually am the contrarian. I think Mitch is actually going to start out the season. And I think because they play the Lions, that's one team he absolutely owns. And then they have the Giants and the Falcons. I mean, if Robinson can get maybe 3 to 4 touchdowns early, which I don't think is out of the question. You do also have the Bucs secondary after I'm kind of on. The Panthers don't scare me.
No, the Bucs secondary is really, really bad, but up front they're
they are,
solid.
And if they get some time, he could shred them. So those are 4 of the first 5 games, where I'm like, if he can start off fast, he may be able to hit the 8 if he can feast on these matchups. Then he's got a big game in December also that I think he's going to absolutely destroy. It's his homecoming to Jaguars.
I was about to say Jags.
Is a game. I don't care what his prop is that week, what DFS you play. Start him that week. That is going to be a game where I think I don't care who's at quarter. If it's Foles and A-Rob, oh boy. They are going to shut him. But I think it just depends on his start. If he can start strong in those first 4 of those first 5 games, I think he has a shot at the over.
Look, if he can make Christian Hackenberg seem like the next college football savior, he can save the Chicago Bears. He had 7 games over 10 targets, which is definitely a nice little dive for a wide receiver number 1 in an offense. He was the best receiver that ever came through Penn State, and he became the most prolific wide receiver during a rushing scheme offense at Penn State, which was incredible. And he made Christian Hackenberg should give him 10% of his check for allowing him to still play football due to his success in Penn State.
XFL checks are not as big as you think.
Don't care. 10% is 10%. So, I'm really high on Allen Robinson. I really like him in Madden. He's been helping me out a lot. So,
in the backyard.
Yeah, in the backyard, ultimate team. But I just really like Allen Robinson, and he's like one of those receivers that, like, Larry Fitzgerald was quarterback proof in Arizona. He had a Hall of Fame career and was getting passes from like John Skeleton. So Allen Robinson, he'll be one of those receivers where it doesn't matter where he goes, he'll still get his yardage and his receptions.
I love when you hear random football names. You're like,
I forgot about that.
John Skeleton.
That guy, awesome. Yeah, I like Allen Robinson. He went in the 3rd round here in this last mock draft.
That's good.
That's where I got him Friday.
I'm gonna do a little lightning round with you guys here. Nick, Allen Robinson or DJ Moore?
Allen Robinson.
Oh,
Emron, Allen Robinson or Adam Thielen? I think it's an easy one for you.
Robinson.
Okay, all right. Nick, Allen Robinson or Calvin Ridley?
Allen Robinson, he's number 1. Calvin Ridley's like 1A, but you still got Julio there.
Okay, Emron, Allen Robinson or Mike Evans?
That's a good one.
Fuck. Mike Evans, but it's close because of Godwin.
Okay. Nick, Allen Robinson or Kenny Galladay? And that'll be the last one.
Allen Robinson.
Okay, so yeah, majority, Allen Robinson I think is solid value in the 3rd round, and I guess that's just really what I wanted to highlight there. Would you guys push him into the 2nd round? How about this? Let me rephrase this. 14 teams, would you push him into the 2nd round?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to reach on that.
14-team league, though.
Yeah, so if you have 14 teams, knock on Julio and Eckler to the end of that round, and then, essentially he's a pick away.
Okay, yeah.
He's a pick away.
Yeah, it's basically where he's going now.
Yeah.
Okay, just curious. I think I would still want him in the 3rd round at that value, especially because if you're in that swing, right? Like I would
on the wrap, yeah.
Yeah, I would probably take if I could get let's say I'm the last pick and you get like an Eckler, and then if you really want to go contrarian with a tight end, Eckler, Kittle, Robinson's a very balanced start. That's a very balanced start.
Yeah.
And while you're not overloading one position, you really have a lot of options going into your 4th pick, right? You could even go quarterback if you want a top guy in the next one. Probably wouldn't recommend for the 4th round. Quarterbacks in the 4th round, you're like Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson, and
because Mahomes and Jackson are gone by that point.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like the value's dropped off quite a bit, and you need to wait for the next round. So yeah, I wouldn't mind that. But Robinson, very good value in the 3rd. If you somehow get him in the 4th, you're doing something right, and everybody else is doing something wrong. Anything you guys wanted to add in on Robinson to close it out here?
Nope, I'm good on it.
Nope.
Yeah, really excited about the Bears. Really excited about fantasy. We are within reaching distance. Good God, if the season somehow got canceled now between now and kickoff, I'd lose my mind.
Don't you wish that on the season?
Yeah, just 1 second here.
We got about 6 months until the season starts with 2 weeks in 2020, so
knock on wood for that for sure. Hard Knocks, getting some really bad reviews. The knock on wood there just, brought some John Gruden into my mind. The last episode a little bit better than the previous, but man, people are not jumping on the Hard Knocks. Could just be the lack of preseason. I don't know.
Probably.
I think so, because it's just a TV show at that point. Like you don't get to really follow the guys. Like, oh, this guy's doing it this way. Let me see how he does in this game. It's just, I'm happy that they're doing it, but it doesn't do much for me right now.
Yeah, other than seeing like the behind the scene COVID stuff.
Oh,
that's about it.
One other thing. Do you guys also think it's just because the teams? Like, I think the Rams and like the Seahawks, and the Chargers.
Should have split it. Should have done one.
Yeah,
should have done one. And I just what's the storyline with either team? I mean, what really pulls you in? Yeah, I know like the Chargers drafted Herbert, but like
you see the developmental guys for the Rams. You see any of that? You probably, if you didn't watch the last episode, you wouldn't have. Yeah, they got this Danny Woodhead looking dude who plays linebacker running around saying "Gosh darn fudge this and that," and
he'll be on the Patriots by week 3.
Yeah, he might be actually, but he's not doing very good. So I don't think he's going to be on any team.
Well, then he'll be on the Jets.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a weird Hard Knock season. It's a weird off season in general, right? I mean, it is what it is. But we're getting closer to drafts. We appreciate you guys stopping in. Like, share the video. Hammer the like button. Share the video. All of it. Follow us on Twitter. Like Nick always
Twitter.
Says.
Follow us. I like it a lot.
Come ride with us. It's going to be a fun season. We're going to be doing live streams here in the coming weeks for drafts, for Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Sunday afternoon games. So look out for more details on that. We got some fun stuff that we're going to be doing with props. You can look out for that on the next episode, or look out for our updates this week on social media. We got some fun stuff in stored for you guys. Some off the field, non-football related social stuff. So. Again, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time. Take care. Be well.
Thank you.
Hizzy.
See you guys.